Hi, this is Abdul Aziz Khan with my today's comment on the headlines of some news channels. So we should start from CNN. So the main story is he's going to change the world. So let's see who can change the world fast, George Floyd or the coronavirus, because they are both the top trends nowadays, and both are trying very hard to change the world. And let's see, yesterday the funeral of George Floyd happened, and there were many protests around the world, and a lot of people they talked about the police reforms. So I think this police reform should have a good impact if they are able to do it, because doing it is also not very much easy. Because yes, yesterday we saw that the union of police officers also they intervene. There are people who don't want these reforms to happen. So, but let's see what happens next. So, North Korea is doing a lot of things. They have cut off their communication with South Korea. In Britain, they are removing a lot of monuments based on different reasons, and they want to make Britain look diverse. So, diversity is the key, and racism should be eliminated anyhow. And this is the main message for all of us, that we should detest this and we should stop this at all cost, wherever or in whatever way it is possible for us. Wherever we are, whatever we do, we should try to see that if something includes racism, then we should not indulge with it. So apart from this, there are no big news on CNN. China is doing a lot of things. Keanu Reeves is going to come again in Matrix 4. So let's see how does it look like. And otherwise the things are getting, it looks like the people they're getting used to live with corona, because everyone is easing the lockdown situation, and people are going to be used to this social distancing and using mask in crowded areas. So George Floyd funeral is on BBC as well. CrossFit CEO quits after making a joke about him. So you should not make joke about him, otherwise he should wait for a few days. Maybe when the dust settles down, then no one will mind it a lot, because we have seen that these kind of things, they don't generally they don't go for a very longer period of time. But right now it is still a lot of people they are keeping it alive. But let's see, because it's not the first time. Many times it has happened, but after a few weeks or few days or everything then settles down. So let's hope that this time this brings some real changes. As I said in all of my previous videos, the basic thing we need is a change, a reform in the laws, in the SOPs. This is what is exactly needed. All other things are, you can say that they are secondary, they are not. So a lot of rains happening in China, and Three Gorges Reservoir's water level has dropped to contain water from potential seasonal flooding. So there's a big chance of seasonal flooding, flash floods in a lot of area, even in Pakistan as well. But let's see, because generally in Pakistan we don't really take good precautions and we are always hit by these things. So let's see what our government is doing. But China is tackling things quite correctly from last many years. So they have shown that even these kind of things like natural torrential rains and these kind of things, they can also be contained and controlled if you did all the required things in a professional way. Now China is going underwater as well, making records 10,900 meters under the sea. So China is, we can say that China is everywhere. All the countries, they should learn from China. A few days ago, they were on the top of Mount Everest, and now they are in the bottom of the sea. So they are what we say that they are everywhere. So Al Jazeera is also no George Floyd. They start with the second wave of coronavirus in US. So let's see. After a lot of protest, there is still a chance of a second big outbreak because of this George Floyd protest. Let's see what happens. There was some news that it has jumped, but I don't exactly. I was not able to find that jump on the WHO and other websites. But it will, if it has really jumped, then it will show its toll in a few days, because generally it takes 14 days to hit hard for a person. So Burundi president dies of heart attack. Fence around White House becomes gallery of protest art. So White House is fenced. So US Senate confirmed first black service chief in historic vote. So I think this should be a big eye opener for the people who talked up very blatantly about the equality and gender equality and race equality in the countries like US. I mean, in hundreds of years, after 100 of years of democracy, this is the first black services chief. So this in itself, I mean, they just got the first president just a few years ago, and then they got the first chief now. So this shows that in the root of the country is basically racist. It's not allowing other kind of people, because these people, they are also living in the same country for more than 300-400 years, so they are also as local as anyone else. But the first one is given an entry after the big clashes and a lot of protest and these kind of things. I think this is just, he's just giving a chance to, because to appease the people. But basically they should change their all the laws. Anyone who is capable of doing anything, he should be allowed to do it. He should be given a very fair chance to do it. Not like if you have big riots and big protests, then you put a black man on the some big seat. So this is not the way. So for writers, also start with George Floyd's funeral, and part of George Floyd, the things are almost the same in writers as well. In this US, we see that a lot of Like if you see here, most of these are here going up, this one going up, going up, going up, coming down, but this again going up. This came down and then again going up, came down, going up. So apparently I can say that most of it is in US it's going up. So it may be a big second wave really for the US, and if they already have a big death rate, because the problem, for example, in Pakistan we also have a big numbers of coronavirus patients, but I don't know why, because I'm not an expert of it, but the death percentage is quite low. So even if it is going up, then with a very low death percentage, we can even still survive for the, you can say, for the fatality part of it. But in US, we have seen that the death is very easily more than 5%. So if it is still going up, then they should be much more cautious about it. So New York is also what was close to 0. So corporations pledge 1.7 billion to address racism and injustice. So let's see what unfolds, and let's meet again tomorrow with the new headlines. But currently, let's see who will change the world in a better way, George Floyd or the coronavirus.